You've stared at your phone more times than you'd like to admit. No call, no message, just silence. And in that space, your mind starts to race. Is she over it, did I do something wrong? Should I reach out first? But here's the truth. When a woman stops calling or texting, it always means something. Maybe it's distance, maybe it's disinterest, or maybe she's waiting to see what kind of man you are when nothing is handed to you. This is where most guys lose themselves, but not the Stoic man. He doesn't fill the silence with desperation. He observes, it learns from it, and lets it shape him. In this video, we'll break down what it really means when she pulls away, and how to respond with strength, presence, and clarity. Let's find out. Number 1, the echo of distance. Her silence doesn't just mean she's busy. It means something has shifted. And if you're honest with yourself, you can feel it too. The rhythm of communication that once felt natural now feels disrupted no more. Good mornings. No more curious check-ins. Just space, empty space. But here's where most men panic. They fill that space with questions, assumptions, desperate outreach. The Stoic man, he does the opposite. He doesn't rush to fill the void. He lets the silence speak because he knows that not every absence deserves to be interrupted. Maybe she used to ask about your day. Now she's watching your stories but never replying. That's not coincidence. That's emotional distance echoing through digital traces. And this is where discipline matters. You don't chase shadows hoping for validation. You don't negotiate your worth with breadcrumbs. You observe, you accept, and you wait. Not passively, but with purpose. Seneca once said, "Time discovers truth." And in relationships, distance does too. A woman's silence is often her way of recalibrating, of seeing if your presence still stirs something within her without your prompting. So let her wonder. Let her feel your absence without explanation. Because when you're grounded in your principles, when your peace doesn't depend on her responses, that's when you become unforgettable. Let the echo of distance work for you, not against you. It's not rejection, it's revelation. And sometimes what fades away in distance was never solid to begin with. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt that shift, the kind where her silence says more than words ever could, where the absence reveals more about the connection than any conversation might? Drop your thoughts in the comments, or just type, "I let the silence speak for me," because when you reflect from a place of calm, you'll realize distance doesn't break you. It reveals who you've become. Let's move on to what happens next. Number 2, not all silence is sadness. Sometimes she's not hurt. She's simply indifferent. This is where a man must practice detachment, not denial. Stoicism teaches, don't take absence personally. It reveals where you truly stand. And here's the truth. Silence can feel like rejection, especially when your heart still wants answers. But not every quiet moment is rooted in pain. Sometimes the silence doesn't come from a wound, but from a void of interest. No anger, no heartbreak, just a lack of care. And that's the most revealing kind of silence. This is when many men panic. They interpret her lack of words as an emotional storm. But in reality, there's no storm. There's just stillness. And it's not meant for you to fix. It's meant for you to recognize. Marcus Aurelius reminded us to see things as they are, not worse than they are. So instead of chasing questioning or spiraling pause, a Stoic man doesn't beg for attention. He watches what's missing and accepts it without self-punishment. Think of it like this. If someone stops clapping after your performance, it doesn't always mean they hated it. Maybe they just weren't moved. Maybe they were never your audience to begin with. That's not tragedy. That's clarity, and clarity is power. When you stop personalizing her silence, you stop handing her control over your peace. So if you're sitting in that quiet space right now, don't rush to fill it. Don't assume her silence means sorrow or regret. Sometimes it simply means she's moved on, and you must be brave enough to do the same with dignity intact and emotions grounded. Not all silence is sadness, and not all sadness needs to be solved. Number 3, she's testing your emotional leash. Women don't always test with words. They test with absence. Will you break? Will you beg? Or will you remain calm, composed, and self-led? The Stoic doesn't bark for attention. He observes, he feels the shift, notices the silence, but he doesn't rush to fill it because he understands this isn't just about her stepping back. It's about her watching how you respond. Will you lose your center the moment she pulls away? Or will you stay grounded in your values? Here's the thing, when she pulls back, it's not always because she's done. Sometimes she's just tugging at the leash to see how tightly you're tied to. Your emotions, if you start chasing, explaining, overreacting. She learns something. She learns that her presence dictates your peace. And that's not strength. That's dependency. But when you stay still, when you don't flinch, don't panic, don't start writing essays to win her back, that's when the dynamic shifts. Think of Marcus Aurelius, who said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Your response to her silence is one of those moments it reveals whether you're truly grounded or if your calm only exists when things are easy. And the truth is, many women respect a man more when he doesn't jump through emotional hoops, when he doesn't try to prove his worth through reaction. Because she's not just looking for love, she's testing for leadership. So ask yourself, can you hold your frame when she pulls back? Can you stay silent when your ego demands answers? Because that, my friend, is the real test. And how you pass it will define how she sees you from this point forward. Number 4, she's busy with something or someone. Let's be real, if she wanted to talk, she would. The disciplined man doesn't fill in the silence with fantasy. He faces it, accepts it, and continues his path with dignity. That's the difference between a man led by emotion and a man led by principle. When she stops reaching out, stops checking in, or suddenly claims she's just been busy. You don't chase explanations, you don't spiral into guessing games, or convince yourself she's overwhelmed with life. Maybe she is, or maybe her attention is somewhere else. Someone else. And here's the thing. Both are fine, because you're not here to compete for space in someone's life. You're here to honor your own. A Stoic man doesn't personalize her silence. He doesn't take her detachment as a wound to his worth. He understands that people prioritize what matters to them, and that includes you, or it doesn't. So when her energy pulls away, don't overcompensate with yours. Don't double text. Don't overthink. Don't pour yourself into a presence that's no longer meeting you. Halfway, let her be busy with work, with distractions, or with someone new. But you stay busy too with your mission, your peace, your growth. In the end, the man who stays composed when others grow distant becomes the one they remember most. Not because he begged, not because he waited, but because he walked with self-respect when most would have crumbled. Now take a moment and really sit with that. It's not about blame, it's about clarity. A man grounded in himself doesn't fear being left out. He chooses not to be misplaced, and that mindset, it creates gravity. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever been in a situation where her busy started to feel like emotional distance? Share your story below, or just drop this in the comments. Her absence doesn't shake my presence. Let's keep building this mindset together, because every calm response in chaos is a step toward mastery. Number 5. You've lost her interest, not your value. That's a hard truth, but one every strong man eventually learns to face. Maybe she stopped replying. Maybe the energy shifted. The warmth turned cold. And suddenly you find yourself questioning everything, wondering what changed, what you could have done differently. But here's what you need to understand. Her fading interest is not a mirror of your value. It's a reflection of where she is. Emotionally, not a declaration of your worth as a man. Stoicism teaches us this powerful truth. You control your response, not her attention. So if she pulls away, let her. Don't chase, don't spiral. Don't start rewriting your story as if her distance defines you. Instead, pause, reflect, then re-enter. Maybe the timing was off. Maybe she was never capable of seeing your depth. Or maybe, like so many, she mistook your consistency for convenience. That happens. But your responsibility now isn't to convince her. Otherwise, it's to remember who you are without the validation. Take this moment as a pivot. The Stoic man doesn't let rejection ruin him. He lets it redirect him toward discipline, toward self-respect, toward things that actually nourish his mind and spirit. Go. Build the life she'll regret losing, not for her, but because you refuse to abandon yourself, just because someone else couldn't see your worth. And if you're feeling this shift right now, if you're in that silent space wondering what went wrong, remind yourself you've lost her interest, not your value. That part is untouchable, so own your path. Walk it with pride and let the rest take care of itself. Number 6, the power shift is happening when she stops reaching out and you stop reacting. That's when the dynamic quietly flips, not out of spite. Not because you're trying to make her miss you, but because you've grown, you've stepped into a different kind of strength. The kind that doesn't flinch when attention fades or patterns shift. The Stoic man doesn't just withhold his emotions, he governs them. He understands that composure doesn't mean suppression. It means holding the line when everything tempts you to break it. That's when clarity shows up, uninvited but undeniable. You start noticing it. In the little things, the late-night texts that once checked in on you. Gone the casual thinking about you. Messages silent where those moments used to trigger you into questioning, chasing, or doubting yourself. Now they remind you of something deeper. Your peace doesn't depend on her presence. You stop trying to resurrect a version of her that once gave you attention, and you stop betraying your own dignity just to feel seen instead of rushing to fill the empty space you allow it. You get comfortable with it because it's in that stillness that you return to yourself, your routines, your goals, your growth. This isn't emotional distance for the sake of playing hard to get. It's discipline, it's self-respect. And it's what Marcus Aurelius hinted at when he wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." You don't match her silence with resentment or overcompensation. You respond with grace, with steadiness, and here's what tends to happen. She feels it not immediately but inevitably, that energetic pull she used to rely on, gone, the emotional availability she once took for granted missing. And it shifts something. Because when a man who once gave freely begins to pull that energy inward, the balance is no longer hers to command. And if there was real connection beneath it all, that change often calls it back, but on different terms, on your terms. So if you're in that season where the contact has slowed down and you feel the temptation to break the silence, just to feel connected again, pause, ask yourself, are you doing it out of fear or out of alignment? Because a man who knows his value doesn't beg for reassurance. He doesn't scramble to prove his worth. He simply lives it. Let the silence speak. Let it carry the message you no longer need to say aloud. This isn't about games. It's about grounding. The power shift doesn't begin when she pulls away. It begins when you stop following number 7. She wants you to wonder the quiet might be calculated. She wants you to question reach slip. But the self-possessed man doesn't chase breadcrumbs. He lives fully even in uncertainty. That space she's leaving, it's not always an accident. Sometimes it's intentional, designed to create doubt in your mind, to make you wonder if you said something wrong, if she's lost interest, if someone else has her attention. And that wondering, it's her way of pulling without pulling, of keeping you emotionally tethered while appearing distant. But here's where Stoicism sets you apart. A Stoic doesn't fill the silence with assumptions or neediness. He doesn't jump into the fog trying to decode signals that were never clearly sent. He steps back and observes. He acknowledges what he knows and lets go of what he doesn't control. That means no overthinking, no chasing false signs, no reacting out of insecurity. Maybe she leaves your message on read. Maybe her replies slow down. Maybe she posts something ambiguous just to catch your attention. All of that is noise. And if you take the bait, you're playing a game you didn't agree to. But when you stand still, grounded in your purpose, she feels it. The pull reverses because you're not seeking clarity from her, you've already found it in yourself. Let her wonder, not the other way around. Because the moment you stop trying to solve her silence, you start reclaiming your peace, and that's when the real shift begins. And now I want to hear from you. What do you think is her silence, a signal or a strategy? Have you noticed this kind of pullback before? Drop your thoughts in the comments, or if you've been in this exact moment, just type, "I no longer chase breadcrumbs." Let this be a space where we grow stronger through awareness, not reaction. And remember, when you stop wondering about her, she starts wondering about you. Let's keep going. Number 8, she's watching, just not speaking. Don't mistake silence for ignorance. Just because she's quiet doesn't mean she's not paying attention. Sometimes the loudest presence is the one that says nothing. She might be observing from afar, subtly, intentionally. Not with words or gestures, but with quiet consistency. You might assume she's moved on, that she's uninterested or emotionally detached. But often she's still there, just without interaction. Watching your posts, checking your stories, skipping the likes, skipping the comments, but still showing up. Not because she's hoping to reconnect, but because she's curious, maybe about you. Maybe about herself, or maybe about the version of you that continued to evolve without her. And here's where most men slip. They interpret the silent views as a sign to act, a signal to engage. But a Stoic man doesn't bend for attention. He doesn't craft his image to be noticed or tweak his path to draw someone back in. He understands that real strength isn't reactive, it's intentional. He sharpens his mind, strengthens his body, deepens his character, not to be seen, but to live rightly. His journey isn't a show. His peace isn't a performance. He operates by an inner code, not external validation picture. This you've grown. You've built something stronger out of what once broke you. And suddenly there she is, viewing your story again. Maybe it's coincidence, but chances are it's her way of staying tethered without the risk of being vulnerable. And that's where your discipline gets tested. Do you reach out? Do you post something for her to see? Or do you stay aligned with who you've become? A grounded man knows the answer. He doesn't chase breadcrumbs. He doesn't respond to presence that comes without substance, because he understands not everything that returns is meant to be reopened. Not every glance back deserves a reaction. Her silence may be filled with questions, but yours should be filled with clarity. So let her watch. Let her wonder. Let your stillness speak volumes. You're not here to be noticed. You're here to become undeniable. Number 9. Your detachment is now her mirror when you stop messaging, and she notices the void. You've handed her a mirror, not out of spite, not to create confusion, but because your energy no longer chases what isn't being reciprocated. That shift, it doesn't go unnoticed. She starts to feel the silence, not as punishment, but as reflection. It reflects her choices, her absence, her indecision. And now, instead of wondering where you went, she starts asking why she feels your absence so deeply. This is where Stoicism quietly shows its strength. You're not reacting. You're not flinching. You're not trying to fix what doesn't want to be fixed. The Stoic man doesn't abandon emotionally. He simply steps back with intention. He focuses on what he can control: his presence, his direction, his discipline, and in doing so, he becomes the mirror she didn't expect to face. Imagine this. She scrolls through her phone, half expecting your name to be there, a message, a check-in. But there's nothing, not because you don't care, but because you've reclaimed your center. And that quiet decision speaks louder than any paragraph ever could. She might call it cold, but truthfully, it's clarity. It's what happens when a man no longer ties his worth to someone else's attention. And the beauty is when your peace becomes louder than your pursuit. It forces others to confront the noise within themselves. Let her sit with that mirror, and you stay grounded, keep building. Let your absence be honest, not strategic. And if she looks closely enough, she'll see what your presence used to offer and what her indecision let slip away. Number 10. She's waiting for you to break. Character silence is a slow script. She may want to see if you'll eventually reach out, But the man who lives by principles, not impulse, never breaks character to win someone back. See, she's not just waiting for a message, she's watching to see if the version of you that walked away with dignity was real or just an act. Maybe she's wondering, will he fold? Will he slip back into chasing? That's the test, and many men fail it by reaching out too soon, trying to reopen a door that was meant to stay closed for their own peace. But the Stoic man knows that character isn't something you turn on and off depending on who's watching. It's who you are when no one's clapping, when the temptation to react feels overwhelming and yet you stay grounded. Like Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Breaking character just to soothe someone's ego or validate their test, that's not strength, that's surrender. Let her wonder, let her question if the man she once knew has grown into something she can't manipulate anymore. Because real presence doesn't beg. And when a man walks with conviction, even silence speaks volumes, stay centered. That's when you become unforgettable. So now ask yourself, what does it really mean to stay in character when no one's applauding, when the silence stretches on and the urge to explain or chase creeps in? This is the moment most men lose themselves. But if you've made it this far, it means something in you is changing. You're not here to pass someone's emotional test. You're here to master yourself. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. How have you handled moments where you felt tempted to break your own standard? Drop your experience in the comments, or just type, "She won't see me fold," if you're choosing discipline over reaction. Let's see who's really walking with intention. Number 11. It's your chance to reclaim yourself. It's your chance to reclaim yourself. Not through revenge, not through proving anything to anyone, but by turning inward and realizing you were never truly lost. Maybe you just got distracted. Maybe you poured into someone else before filling your own cup. Maybe you kept showing up for someone who slowly stopped showing up for you. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you were weak. It means you cared. But now comes the part that truly matters. Not what she says. Not what she posts. Not whether she regrets it, but what you do with this space, this silence, this opportunity. The Stoics taught us that peace is found not in controlling others, but in mastering ourselves, her distance. That's not your battleground. What is your reaction? Your discipline, your focus? You don't need a long explanation to begin again. You don't need her acknowledgement to validate your worth. Healing doesn't wait for permission. It begins the moment you choose not to carry what's not yours. So take this time seriously. Go back to the gym. Not because you're angry, but because it clears your head and reminds you of your strength. Read, learn. Get uncomfortable in the right ways. Not to escape, but to grow. Reinvent your mornings. Tighten your habits. Become a man who is rooted, not reactive. This is how you quietly return to yourself, not through noise or attention, but through deliberate action, silent progress, and inner clarity. Reclaiming yourself doesn't look like trying to make her jealous. It looks like smiling for no reason, sleeping well again, and knowing that your value isn't up for negotiation. It looks like a man who no longer needs to be chased to feel important because he's too busy becoming who he was always meant to be. This is your turning point. You don't have to announce it, just live it. Because when a man chooses his peace over his past, his presence starts speaking louder than anything he could ever say. So when the messages stop and the silence stretches on, remember, not every absence is a loss. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's a test. But most of all, it's a moment. A moment for you to choose who you become when no one's watching. The Stoic man doesn't react to silence with panic. He responds with patience. He doesn't chase love. He attracts it by living with purpose. So before you send that late-night message, ask yourself, is this coming from strength or from fear? Your answer is your power. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments or just type, "I choose strength." Let's keep evolving together.